3 years ago, my daughter accused me of doing something horrifying to her. My wife, my parents, everyone believed her. Then, a stranger messaged me with proof of what really happened, and I still can't process what I read. Hey Reddit, it's Walter. I've been holding this in for a long time, and I'm finally ready to share what really happened to me and my family a few years back. It's not easy to talk about, but sometimes the truth just sits on your chest until you let it out. I'm not looking for sympathy. I just want to put the story somewhere it won't disappear. My name's Walter. 52 male, born and raised in a small town in Texas. I've worked as an accountant at a mid-sized company here for almost 25 years. I married my wife, Celine, when we were both 23. We were total opposites, but somehow it worked. We raised 2 kids and lived what most would call a good, simple life. Our first child, Diana, was born a year into our marriage. From the minute she arrived, people said she'd grow up to do big things. By the time she was 6, she could charm anyone. Teachers adored her. Neighbors dropped by just to say how precious she was. Then came Adam, 7 years later. Total opposite of his sister. Quiet, thoughtful, the kind of kid who took apart the toaster just to see how it worked. From the outside, we looked like one of those perfect families you see in Christmas cards. But when you live inside something long enough, you start noticing the cracks no one else does. I still remember the first time I realized Diana could lie without blinking. She was maybe 10. Celine had baked cookies for a school fundraiser, and Diana decided to sneak one before dinner. When I caught her, she smiled right at me and said, "Mom said I could." She hadn't, of course. I told her I'd be asking her mom, and Diana didn't even flinch. Just shrugged and said, "Okay, ask her." The confidence in her voice actually made me doubt myself for a second. That was the first time I thought, she's too good at this. Stuff like that kept happening. In middle school, she got in trouble for spreading a rumor about another girl. When I confronted her, she turned on the waterworks. "She was mean to me first," she said, crying into her hands. Selena immediately pulled her into a hug, glaring at me like I was the bad guy. "She's a kid, Walter," she said. "They fight. Don't make such a big deal." Diana knew exactly what she was doing. Every time she cried, every time she twisted a story, Selena was right there to defend her. I told myself it was just a phase, teenage drama, hormones, whatever excuse fit at the time. But the older she got, the sharper those lies became. In high school, she joined the cheer squad, student council, honor society. You name it. Everyone in town loved her. But inside, I knew there was something off. I'd see her get into small arguments with her mom and twist them into full-blown guilt trips. Once, Selene grounded her for sneaking out to a football party. Diana came to me later crying, saying, "Mom said I'm a disappointment." "You don't think that, do you, Dad?" I told her no, of course not. But when I mentioned it to Celine, she looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "Walter, I never said that," she said. "Why would she tell you that? That was Diana's gift. She could turn 2 people against each other with a single sentence." Adam noticed it too, even when he was young. He'd mutter, "She's lying again," under his breath when she'd start up her stories. Celine always had an excuse ready for Diana. It was easier for Celine to believe Diana was just being young than to admit something was off. If I ever called Diana out, Celine would say I was being too hard on her. There's this one memory that sticks out. Diana was 16, and she came home with a fancy necklace. She said her friend got it for her birthday. A week later, Celine noticed a post on Facebook. Some girl from school accusing Diana of stealing it from her locker. Celine brushed it off, said it was jealousy. I wanted to believe her. But that night I heard Diana whispering on the phone, telling someone she'd handled it. That phrase, handled it, still makes me uneasy to this day. When Diana left for college, the house got quieter, calmer even. Celine cried for weeks, saying she missed the noise. I didn't say it out loud, but I didn't miss it at all. For the first time, the house didn't feel like it was walking on eggshells. I told myself that maybe college would fix her. Maybe being on her own, away from all the small-town praise, would help her grow up a little. People change, right? If I could go back now, I'd tell my younger self to stop brushing things off, to stop thinking time would fix what I didn't want to face. Because the truth is, Diana didn't grow out of it. She grew into it, and none of us were ready for what she'd become. At first, it was small things. Diana was in college, studying business at a decent university about 3 hours away. She'd call once in a while, mostly when she needed something. When she came home for the first long weekend, she seemed different. Her voice was louder, her laugh sharper. She carried herself like she was above everyone, even us. Over the next year, she came home less often, but when she did, it was always an event. She'd sit at the dinner table telling stories about her professors, her group projects, her network. Everything sounded like a performance. She'd brag about outsmarting classmates or manipulating a presentation, so she'd get credit for someone else's work. When I'd raise an eyebrow, she'd laugh and say, "Dad, it's called strategy." Adam couldn't stand it. One night, after she left the room, he leaned toward me and said quietly, "She's so fake, Dad. It's like she's playing a character 24/7. I didn't say it, but I agreed with him. Still, I didn't want to start a fight with Celine over it. I could already hear the argument in my head. "You're just jealous she's outgoing. You've always been too hard on her." Around that time, I started keeping a mental list. Not written down, just small notes in my head. The eye rolls when I said no to her requests. The way she'd flirt with waiters at restaurants. How she'd get defensive over nothing. It wasn't one big thing. It was 100 little things that didn't sit right. One weekend, Celine's side of the family came over for a barbecue. Everyone was in the backyard, laughing, catching up. Diana was telling stories about her college friends, making herself the star of everyone. Celine's cousin Derek, he's around my age, divorced, nice guy, asked her what her plans were after graduation. She tilted her head and said, "Not sure yet. Maybe I'll find myself a mentor. Handsome ones like you always give the best advice." Everyone went quiet for a second. Derek chuckled awkwardly, trying to change the subject, but I caught the look on his face, confused, embarrassed. Celine looked down at her plate. Diana just kept smiling. That night, I pulled Celine aside in the kitchen. "You heard that, right? That wasn't normal." She sighed. "Walter, she was joking." "Joking? With a man twice her age? In front of your whole family? You're overthinking it. She's just being playful. That's her personality." "Playful?" I said, keeping my voice low. "It was weird, Celine. It's not the first time she's done something like that." She rolled her eyes, washing a plate that didn't even need washing. "You've got to stop picking at her. You'll push her away." I didn't respond. I just grabbed my jacket and went to sit on the porch. From the porch, I could see through the kitchen window. Celine was still at the sink, shaking her head, probably telling herself I was too strict. Diana came up behind her, hugged her, whispered something, and they both laughed. I remember thinking how strange it was that she always knew exactly what to say to stay on her mom's good side. Adam came outside and sat next to me. "She's so weird, Dad," he said quietly. "It's like she tries to make everyone uncomfortable on purpose. She's an attention seeker." I nodded. "Yeah, I noticed." He looked at me like he was waiting for me to do something about it. But what could I do? Diana was an adult now. Every time I tried to call her out, I became the bad guy. When she came home for Christmas that year, she was even worse. She made fun of our small-town traditions, said she couldn't believe people still went to church here. Celine laughed along, even when Diana started teasing me about my job. "Dad's been balancing the same spreadsheets for 20 years, she said, grinning. "He probably dreams in decimals." Everyone laughed. I forced a smile. That night, after everyone went to bed, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, running through my mental list again. The jokes, the attitude, the way she made everyone uncomfortable and somehow got away with it. I didn't know what was coming next, but I could feel something brewing. Diana wasn't just acting different. She was testing how far she could push before anyone would finally tell her no. And I was starting to realize that in my own house, surrounded by my own family, I was the only one who saw it. After Diana graduated, she landed a consulting job at a firm in the city. Selena couldn't stop bragging about it. Every conversation somehow circled back to Diana's success. Her new office, the travel stipend, and access to a company pool car, and the professional wardrobe. Selene helped her pick out I was proud too. But deep down, that uneasiness never went away. It was like waiting for a storm you could feel, but couldn't see. She started dropping by my office soon after. The first time, she texted that she was in the area and wanted to grab lunch. I said sure, thinking it'd be nice to catch up. She showed up wearing a sharp business suit and heels, carrying 2 coffees. Everyone at work was polite, complimenting her confidence. My coworker Henry, the same one I'd butted heads with a few times, said, "Now I see where your daughter gets it from." I laughed it off, but his tone made me uncomfortable. Lunch was fine at first, but Diana kept steering the conversation toward my job. She teased me about how boring accounting must be compared to her fast-paced consulting life. Then she started asking weirdly specific questions about my coworkers. Who was single? Who was fun? Whether anyone ever flirted with me. I changed the subject fast. When I got home and told Celine, she laughed. "She's just making conversation," she said. "You take everything too seriously." The next week, Diana stopped by again, unannounced. She brought me a little box of pastries from some trendy bakery and said, Just to thank you for being such a hard worker, Dad. She stayed for almost an hour, chatting with my assistant, leaning over my desk, touching random papers like she owned the place. It made my skin crawl. I finally told her I had a meeting just to get her to leave. After she left, my boss came by and smirked. Your daughter's quite the charmer, he said. We might have to hire her. And I forced a laugh, but it didn't feel funny. She did it again 2 more times over the next few weeks. Always the same pattern: coffee, snacks, too much small talk, and questions that felt too personal. One day she made a comment that crossed the line. I was typing something when she leaned against the doorframe and said, "You know, most of the guys here are handsome, including you, Dad." I froze. "Diana," I said quietly, "that's not appropriate." She tilted her head, smirking. "Relax, it's a compliment." "No, it's not." She shrugged, tossed her hair, and said, "You've gotten weird lately." Then she left, the sound of her heels echoing down the hallway. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling. I sat on the couch thinking about how blurred things had become. Diana didn't act like a daughter anymore. She acted like someone testing limits. I decided to put a stop to it. The next morning, I called her. "Listen," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I don't want you coming by my office anymore. It's not appropriate. People talk, and it makes me uncomfortable." She was quiet for a second, then laughed. "Oh my God, Dad. You're being dramatic. You think people care that much?" "I'm serious," I said. "Don't come by again unless it's something important." She sighed. "Fine. Whatever makes you happy." But the tone in her voice told me she was offended. A few weeks went by. Things were quiet. I thought maybe that was the end of it, until the night everything changed. It was raining hard, the kind of storm that shakes the windows. Adam was out with his friends, and Selene was at some work event that ran late. I was sitting on the couch watching the news when I heard pounding at the door. I opened it to find Diana, soaked and shivering, mascara running down her face. "Dad," she said, her voice cracking. "Can I come in?" She told me she'd had a huge fight with her boyfriend about money, that he'd accused her of being selfish. She was crying, talking fast, saying she didn't know where else to go. I made her some tea and gave her a towel. She curled up on the couch, rambling about how no one understood her, how her boyfriend was controlling, how people always turned on her. I just listened, trying not to make it worse. Then she looked at me and said softly, "You've always been the only man who really gets me." I felt my stomach drop. "Diana, stop," I said. "What?" she said, pretending not to understand. "That's not something you say to your father." She stared at me for a long second. Then her face twisted like I'd insulted her. "You always make things weird," she snapped. "I come here upset, and you act like I did something wrong." I stood up. "Maybe you should go home. I'll drive you." She shook her head, grabbed her purse, and stormed out into the rain before I could stop her. I watched her car taillights disappear down the street and locked the door behind her. I remember standing there, soaked in silence, wondering what just happened. A week later, everything blew up. I came home from work to find Selene sitting on the couch, pale and shaking. She didn't even look at me when I walked in. "Diana told me what you did," she said quietly. My heart stopped. "What I did?" "She said you tried to kiss her that night." It felt like the air got sucked out of the room. "That's not true," I said, my voice cracking. "Selene, you know me. I would never—" She stood up, tears spilling down her face. "Get out, Walter. I can't even look at you right now." "Selene, please! Get out!" she screamed. Adam came running from his room, confused, asking what happened. "I'm leaving," I said. He looked between us, eyes wide. "Why?" "Your sister's lying," I said flatly. "And your mom believes her." Adam didn't hesitate. "Then I'm going with you." He walked me out to the truck, still in his socks, eyes burning with anger. I told him to stay with a friend for the night until I figured out where to go. He nodded, said he'd call me in the morning. I slept in the truck that night, parked behind the grocery store. The rain beat against the windshield like it wanted to wash everything clean. Driving away from that house, I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw it disappearing behind the storm. My whole life, gone in an instant. In one night, I went from husband and father to a monster in everyone's eyes. The morning after Selene threw me out, I sat in my truck in the grocery store parking lot, engine off, just staring at nothing. I hadn't slept. Adam told me he'd crash at his friends until we figured things out. My phone kept buzzing. Missed calls, texts, all from family. I finally picked up one from my mother. I barely got out a hello before she started crying. "Walter, how could you?" she said between sobs. "Mom, it's not true. Diana told us everything. You need help. I don't even recognize you anymore." She hung up before I could explain. That was the first time I realized how quickly a lie can bury the truth. Diana's story spread faster than wildfire. Small towns don't need proof. They just need something to talk about. Within 2 days, I was the guy who crossed a line with his own daughter. When I showed up at work that Monday, my boss, Mr. Benson, asked me to come into his office. He closed the door and looked uncomfortable, rubbing his forehead like he didn't want to say what was coming. Walter, I'm not sure what's going on, he started carefully, but some concerning things have reached me. People are talking. I didn't say anything. There was nothing to say. Look, he continued, we're not taking sides. You've been here over 20 years, but until this situation settles down, I think it's best if you take some personal leave. So, I packed up my desk that afternoon. The same coworkers I'd eaten lunch with for years couldn't even look me in the eye. One woman, who used to joke with me every morning, suddenly found her keyboard very interesting when I walked past. For a few days, I told myself it really was just leave. But by the end of the week, HR called me back in. They said it would be better for everyone if we made it a mutual separation. That's corporate code for you're finished here. They slid a paper across the desk, a separation agreement with a small payout attached. I signed it. The check wasn't much, but it was enough to keep us moving. Celine didn't call, not once. I left her a few voicemails explaining what really happened, but all I got back was a text that said, I can't look at you anymore. Adam was the only one who stood by me. When I told him I was thinking of getting a hotel, he said, no, we're not staying here, not in this town. So we left Texas. I had some savings and a small severance from my job, enough to get us started somewhere else. Arizona wasn't some big plan. It was just the first place that felt far enough away. When we finally pulled into a small town outside Phoenix, we found a 2-bedroom apartment that smelled like old carpet and paint thinner. It wasn't much, but it was a roof. Adam took the smaller room, said he didn't need space. The first week I spent my days looking for work and my nights sitting in silence. Adam picked up shifts at a local electronics store while I sent out resumes to accounting firms. Every time I filled out a background check, I wondered if the story had followed me. Some nights I'd wake up in a cold sweat, thinking about Celine. I'd reach for my phone and see her posting photos of Diana, smiling at restaurants, captioned with things like, proud of this strong woman. Underneath, Diana would reply with hearts and butterfly emojis. I thought about calling Diana, just once, just to hear her voice, but I couldn't. I didn't even know what I'd say. Why? Maybe that was it. Just, why? Months passed before things started to feel routine. I found a small accounting job doing books for a local construction company. The pay wasn't great, but the people were kind enough. Nobody knew my name here, and that was a blessing. Adam adjusted faster than I did. He started taking community college classes, made friends at work. He never talked about Texas. The only time he mentioned his mom or sister was when he saw me staring at my phone too long. They don't deserve you, Dad, he'd say. Let it go. But it's hard to let go when everything you built was torn down overnight. One afternoon, about 6 months after we moved, I came home to find Adam on the couch with a pizza box between us. He handed me a slice and said, you should stop checking their pages. It's just making it worse. I wanted to argue, but he was right. Still, later that night, when he went to bed, I found myself scrolling again. Diana had posted a picture of herself at some fancy dinner, captioned, surround yourself with people who see your worth. Celine commented, always, sweetheart. That one hit me harder than the rest. I closed my phone and sat there in the dark, realizing how far gone they were. Every now and then I'd catch myself daydreaming that Celine would call and say, I believe you now. But the phone stayed silent. The hardest part wasn't losing them. It was realizing how easily people erase you when they're told to. One lie, and suddenly you're not a person anymore. You're a story people whisper about when they think you can't hear. And that's how I lived for the next 3 years. Quietly, in the background, learning that sometimes the truth doesn't set you free. It just leaves you behind. That's what the next 3 years felt like, being left behind. Arizona became routine. It wasn't a bad life, just smaller. Adam was doing great. He finished community college and got into a tech support job. He saved every paycheck, talked about maybe going back to school for programming. He'd become more of an adult in a few years than I had in 50. We didn't talk about Celine or Diana. It was an unspoken rule. Sometimes I'd catch Adam scrolling through social media, and he'd quickly lock his phone. Then one Tuesday night, everything changed. I was sitting on the couch after dinner, half watching the news, when my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it, but I saw the name, Heather R. I didn't recognize it at first. Then I saw her profile picture. A young woman, probably mid-20s, under mutual friends. I saw Diana's name. My stomach tightened. Her message was short at first. Hi, Mr. Thompson. I'm sorry to bother you. I used to know your daughter in college. I need to tell you something. I hesitated, thinking it was some scam. But curiosity won. I replied, Hi, Heather. What's this about? It took her 5 minutes to type back. I should have said something years ago. I didn't know how, but I can't keep quiet anymore. Then a file attachment. Screenshots. A dozen of them. The first image was from a group chat. Diana's name right there in blue text bubbles. She was bragging about how easy it was to make people believe what you want if you cry hard enough. The next few made my stomach churn. One showed her talking about some professor she accused of creeping on her just to get out of a project she hadn't finished. Another message thread was about a coworker she called gross and said, He touched my back once, that's enough. Heather added context underneath. Neither of those stories were true. She laughed about them later. I scrolled through slowly, feeling my pulse in my ears. Heather messaged again while I was still reading. I know what she said about you. It wasn't true either. I saw messages. She was angry because you didn't like one of your coworkers, right? I froze. Which coworker? I typed. She replied instantly. Henry. She said you hated him. I think she was trying to prove something to him. Henry. My old coworker. The one I'd argued with more times than I could count. The same guy Diana had once mentioned in passing at dinner years ago, calling him handsome for an older guy. I felt dizzy. Heather sent another batch of screenshots. These ones made my hands shake. Diana's messages read, Henry says he doesn't trust people who let their family control them. He says my dad thinks he's better than everyone. He said if I really love him, I should prove I'm not like my dad. Then another. I told Henry I could make my dad regret everything. Watch me. I dropped my phone on the table like it burned me. Adam was coming out of his room, yawning, and saw my face. Dad, you okay? I couldn't even speak at first. I just handed him the phone. He sat down, scrolled, and his expression changed from confusion to disgust. She did this for that guy? He said quietly. I nodded. My throat felt tight. She wrecked our family because of him, Adam said. And Mom, he stopped himself, shaking his head. Mom's never gonna believe this. He handed the phone back like it was something dirty. We sat there in silence, the only sound the faint hum of the AC. More messages came through from Heather. I didn't know how bad it got until later. Diana talked about how she could get anyone to take her side. She called it her superpower. She ruined people's lives, Mr. Thompson. You weren't the first. I leaned back on the couch, staring at the ceiling. My daughter, the little girl who used to hold my hand at the grocery store, had destroyed our family because some manipulative man told her to prove her loyalty. Heather sent one last message. I'm sorry for not coming forward sooner. I just didn't want her to turn on me, too. I typed back, Thank you for telling me. You did the right thing. Then I sat there for a long time, just staring at my reflection in the black TV screen. Adam finally said, What are you going to do with it? I don't know, I said. Part of me wants to send it to your mom. Part of me just wants to delete everything. He nodded slowly. She doesn't deserve to see it. Not yet. Let her live with what she believes. He was right. Celine had made her choice. She'd believed the story without asking for mine. That night, I copied every screenshot to a USB drive and locked it in my desk drawer. Proof. Not for revenge, not for closure. Just so one day, if anyone ever asked, I could finally say, I have the truth right here. When I went to bed, I couldn't sleep. The guilt, the anger, the relief, it all mixed together until I couldn't tell one from the other. I kept thinking about the night Diana showed up crying at my door, about how I tried to help her, about how quickly she twisted it into something vile. Now I knew why. It wasn't confusion. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was deliberate. My daughter destroyed me to please a man I couldn't stand. And that was the moment I realized the truth wasn't going to fix anything. It was just going to hurt in a different way. I didn't tell anyone about what Heather sent me. But then, about 4 months later, everything blew up again. This time, without me lifting a finger. It started with a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. It was a guy named Tom, someone who used to work with me back in Texas. I hadn't heard from him in years. Walter, he said, I thought you should know. It's about Diana. Just hearing her name made my stomach tighten. What about her? He hesitated. You remember Henry, right? The guy from your old firm? I gripped the phone tighter. Yeah. Well, he said, turns out Diana's been having an affair with him. His wife found out. It's all over social media back here. It's bad, man. He sent me screenshots, posts, comments, messages. The man's wife had gone public, dumping everything. Pictures, hotel confirmations, text messages. There were messages from Diana to Henry about how easy it was to make people believe her stories, and jokes about Getting rid of annoying men who think they're better than you. My heart sank as I read line after line. She had used those same words before, back when she accused me. Within a week, Diana's name was everywhere in their small business community. Her company fired her immediately. Clients cut ties. People who once praised her were now deleting photos and distancing themselves. Adam showed me a LinkedIn post someone made about professional accountability. They didn't name her directly, but the comments section made it obvious who they were talking about. Guess karma finally clocked in, Adam said quietly. I didn't respond. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired. The fallout spread fast. Henry's wife wasn't just angry, she was thorough. She sent the screenshots to everyone in his firm and even posted parts of Diana's messages online. Diana's friends started leaking things too. Old screenshots, private DMs, even photos she'd taken with married clients. By the end of the month, she'd gone completely silent. Her social media was gone, wiped clean. No posts, no photos, nothing. It was like she'd vanished. Then, one morning, my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but something made me answer. Walter, a voice said softly, trembling. I froze. I hadn't heard Selena's voice in over 3 years. Celine? There was a long pause before she spoke again. I didn't know who else to call. What do you want? I asked, keeping my voice flat. She sniffled. It's Diana. Everything's falling apart. She lost her job, her reputation. People are saying horrible things about her. I leaned back in my chair. You believed worse things about me. I know, she said, her voice breaking. I know, and I'm so sorry. She started crying, really crying, the kind of sob that comes from the gut. I should have believed you. Deep down, I knew something was off about her that night. The way she talked, the way she looked at me. I didn't want to believe my daughter could lie like that. I said nothing. I destroyed our marriage, she continued. I destroyed you. I don't even know who I was back then. I took a slow breath. You're 3 years late for forgiveness, Celine. She went quiet. Then she whispered, I know. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know I see it now. All of it. I wanted to feel relief, but I didn't. It was too late for that. Take care of yourself, I said, my voice low. Walter, please. I hope you find peace, I said, then ended the call. I sat there for a while, staring at the wall. For 3 years, I had imagined that call 1,000 different ways. I thought maybe I'd yell, or maybe I'd cry. But when it finally came, I just felt empty. There was nothing left to say. A few days later, Heather messaged me again. Hey, I don't know if you've seen, but Diana's really disappeared. People say she left the state. I replied, I heard. An hour later, she sent a photo. It looked like it was taken through the window of a small diner, one of those roadside places with flickering neon signs and mismatched chairs. Behind the counter, wearing a plain uniform, was Diana. She was wiping down tables, looking exhausted. Heather said a friend in Nevada had recognized her and snapped the photo through the window. I stared at that picture for a long time. I zoomed in until her face blurred. Adam walked by and saw it. Is that her? Yeah, I said quietly. He looked at the phone, then at me. You gonna say something? I shook my head. No. He nodded once and walked away. That night I tried to think of something. Anything to feel. Anger, relief, pity. Nothing came. That woman in the picture wasn't the daughter I'd raised. She wasn't the laughing little girl who used to ride on my shoulders at county fairs or beg me to buy her cotton candy. She was what was left after every lie she told finally caught up to her. And all I could think was, that's not my daughter anymore. That's what's left after all the lies. After that, things went quiet again. No more messages, no more updates. It was like the universe had finally gone still after years of noise. I went back to work, Adam started saving to buy a car, and life felt ordinary. I liked ordinary. Almost a year passed before the peace cracked again. It was a Saturday morning, and I was cleaning out the garage when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something in my gut told me to answer. Walter? It was Celine. Her voice was soft, careful, like she was afraid I'd hang up. What is it? I asked. She sighed. It's Diana. She's not doing well. She's lost, Walter. She needs her family. I leaned against the workbench. She made her choices. She's struggling, Selene said quickly. She's in Nevada, working at some diner. She doesn't have anyone left. She asked about you. Why me? I said flatly. She's got you. There was a pause. She won't talk to me anymore. She says she can't stand the way I look at her. She knows I see it now. What she did. I said nothing. The air between us hung heavy. I'm not asking you to forgive her, Celine said. Just talk to her. Please. I took a deep breath. Celine, You spent years believing I was a monster because she cried loud enough. You threw me out without a question. Now you want me to go fix the same person who broke all of us? Her voice cracked. I don't know what else to do. You should have thought about that before, I said quietly. I'm done being the scapegoat. She whispered my name, but I ended the call before she could say anything else. That night, I told Adam about it. He listened without interrupting, then said, Good. You don't owe them a thing. A week later, Diana called. Her number popped up out of nowhere. No name, just digits I didn't recognize. I hesitated before picking up. Dad, she said softly. Her voice was shaky, tired. Please don't hang up. I didn't say anything. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am. I didn't know how far it would go. I was stupid. I let someone manipulate me, and I ruined everything. Her words tumbled out fast, like she'd been rehearsing them. I lost my job, my friends. Mom barely talks to me, and I can't even get a reference anymore. I know I deserve it. She choked up. I miss my dad. For a second, I almost felt that old instinct to comfort her. But then I remembered everything. Celine's tears, my mother calling me disgusting, the nights in that cheap Arizona apartment wondering how I'd rebuild my life. You didn't just lie, Diana, I said quietly. You destroyed people. You destroyed me. You destroyed your mother. And you didn't stop even when you saw what it was doing. She sniffled. I know. I hate myself every day. Good, I said. Then you're finally learning something. She went silent. I could hear her breathing through the line, small and shaky. I'm trying to change, she said. I'm in therapy. I'm working hard. I want to make things right. I sighed. Making things right doesn't always mean getting people back. Sometimes it just means owning what you did and living with it. I love you, she said quietly. I hope you get better, Diana, I said. But I can't be part of that anymore. Before she could respond, I ended the call. I sat there for a long time afterward, staring at the phone on the table. It didn't feel satisfying. It didn't feel cruel either. It just felt final. When Adam got home, he noticed my face right away. She called, didn't she? I nodded. He sighed. You did the right thing, Dad. We've come too far to go back. We really had. Sometimes I'd catch myself thinking about Texas, about the people who believed Diana's story without hesitation. Word eventually got around after her scandal. Once those old messages leaked, folks started connecting the dots. A few even reached out to Adam online to apologize for what they'd said about me. Celine told her side of the family she'd been wrong. I didn't need a public apology. I just needed the truth to finally breathe again. I had my son. I had my name back. People now know the truth, and that's enough. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.